There's a mechanism inside the money you use every day that's designed to keep you too busy, too anxious, and too confused to ask the one question that would free you. And the question is very simple. What is this stuff actually doing to me? Not to your wallet, but to you, to your mind, your time, your ability to live a life that means something. Hey everyone, I'm Bram Kanstein and this is Bitcoin for Millennials. And in this episode, we're going somewhere that most Bitcoin content never goes. We're not talking about price, we're not talking about charts, we're going to talk about what fiat money does to your consciousness. And by the end of this, I think you're going to see your relationship with money as something completely different than you thought it was. If you're enjoying my content, it would mean a lot to me if you could subscribe to the channel and like my video to support my journey. Thanks a lot. Now let's dive in. Every single day, you make a trade. You go to work and you exchange something that is absolutely irreplaceable. Your time, your energy, your attention, your creativity, the hours of your one and only life for units of a currency that somebody else controls. You didn't choose this currency, you didn't vote for it, and you cannot opt out of it. And the people who manage it can create more of it whenever they want, diluting the value of every unit that you have already earned. You're trading something finite, something you can never ever get back, for tokens whose supply is determined by committee decisions in rooms you'll never enter, made by people you'll never meet, serving interests that aren't yours. I call this the life energy trade, and once you see it for what it is, you cannot unsee it. Alan Watts, the philosopher, nailed this back in the 60s already. He said money relates to real wealth the way words relate to physical reality. It's a symbol, a measurement, not the thing itself. And he used this incredible analogy. Imagine you're building a house and one morning the boss shows up and says, "We can't build today. There are no inches." And you'd say, "What do you mean, no inches? We've got wood, we've got metal, and we even got tape measures." "Yeah, but you don't understand business. We've been using too many inches and there's just no more to go around." That would sound absurd, right? But that's exactly what happened during the Great Depression from 1929 to 1939. Every physical resource was still there, the brains, the labor, the raw materials, nothing had been destroyed. There was just a sudden absence of the measuring tool, the symbol, not the reality. And Alan Watts argued that this confusion isn't just an intellectual mistake. It's the defining error of civilization. We're eating the menu instead of the dinner. We've confused the map for the territory and the measurement for the thing that's being measured. And that confusion doesn't just lead to bad economics, it captures your consciousness. It shapes what you pay attention to, what you chase, what you worry about, literally how you perceive reality. He put it this way: if you say that getting money is the most important thing, you will spend your life completely wasting your time. You'll be doing things you don't like doing in order to go on living, that is, to go on doing things you don't like doing, which is stupid. Now, you might be thinking, okay, Bram, that's nice philosophy, but is there actual evidence that money is doing something to people's minds? There is, and the data is devastating. When central banks create new money, and they create a staggering amount of it, like the Fed's balance sheet went from 900 billion in 2007 to 8.9 trillion in 2022, a nearly 10x increase in 15 years. That money doesn't arrive equally. It enters through specific channels like banks first, then financial institutions, then asset holders. These first receivers spend new money at yesterday's prices. By the time it reaches ordinary wages, prices have already risen. And this is called the Cantillon effect, and I call the downstream consequence of it the extraction loop, because it's not a one-time transfer, it's a continuous compounding drain. And the numbers are staggering. During the pandemic, the world's 10 richest men doubled their fortune to 1.5 trillion. That's about $15,000 per second. The top 1% captured 63% of all new wealth created since 2020. And meanwhile, real wages for working people barely moved. But here's where most economics discussions stop, and where I think the real story begins. What does this extraction loop actually do to you psychologically? A study published in Science in 2014 found that financial scarcity literally reduces your cognitive function by roughly 13 IQ points. Not because poor people are less intelligent. The exact same person tested when stressed about money versus when not performs significantly worse. Financial worry doesn't just limit your options, it limits your mind. Money has been the #1 source of stress in America every single year since they started tracking it in 2007. Not health, not relationships, not work, but money. 72% of Americans feel stressed about it, and somewhere between 50 and 67% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. The median American has about $7,850 in liquid savings, 40 days of income. One car repair away from a crisis, always and perpetual. And when you zoom out and look at the full picture, roughly 75% or more of the average person's income goes to maintaining the system. Taxes, housing, and debt service. The invisible inflation tax, there's nothing left. No margin for building, no margin for creating, no margin for becoming. No margin for having the time and space to go on your inner journey. I call this the bandwidth trap. You're stuck at the base of Maslow's hierarchy. Safety needs, survival mode. And the higher levels, the ones where you find purpose and meaning and self-actualization, those become luxuries. The system keeps you running so hard that you never have the bandwidth to ask the deeper questions. Who am I? What matters in this life? And one thing that has become very, very clear to me is that this is not a side effect. This is all by design. Now, everything I've told you so far, the data, the wealth transfer, the cognitive damage, and the bandwidth trap, most people stop here and think they understand the problem. But the problem is way older than central banking. And once you see that, the solution becomes obvious. Ancient wisdom traditions identified exactly these dynamics thousands of years ago, just in different language. And when you map them onto modern monetary policy, the precision is almost eerie. Let's start with Buddhism. There's this concept called Tana. It literally translates to thirst or craving. The Buddha identified it as the root cause of all suffering. Not desire itself, but this compulsive, unquenchable craving that drives the mind from one object to the next. Basically, to never be satisfied and always reaching. The Dhammapada compares it to a monkey swinging through trees, grabbing one branch only to release it and seize another. Always grasping, but never arriving, literally. And everyone can feel that, right? That you should be doing more, earning more, and optimizing more constantly, day in and day out. Now think about what an inflationary monetary system does. It structurally requires perpetual growth, so also perpetual consumption and perpetual desire for more. Your money is losing value, so you'd better do something with it. Spend it, invest it, leverage it, because if you just hold it, you're getting poorer. The system doesn't just allow craving, it mandates it. I call this institutionalized Tana, a monetary architecture that turns the Buddhist diagnosis of suffering into economic policy. The system engineers the craving and then sells you the cure, which is more consumption, which feeds the craving further, and so on. Basically, an infinite extraction loop applied to your consciousness. Now you might be thinking, okay, Buddhism is one tradition, maybe the parallel is a coincidence, but it's not just Buddhism, and this is where it kind of gets wild. Lao Tzu, the foundational Taoist philosopher, wrote about a principle called Wu Wei, usually translated as effortless action or non-interference. The idea that natural systems, when left alone, tend toward harmony. Chapter 57 of the Tao Te Ching says, the more prohibitions you have, the less virtuous people will be. The more subsidies you have, the less self-reliant people will be. Central banking is the exact opposite of Wu Wei. It's constant intervention, adjusting interest rates, expanding and contracting balance sheets, managing expectations, manipulating yield curves, and providing forward guidance. An entire institution built on the premise that the economy's natural rhythms need to be managed, controlled, and overridden. Lao Tzu also wrote in chapter 75 that people starve because those above them eat too much tax grain. That is the only reason why they starve. 2,500 years ago, the Cantillon effect described in one single sentence. If your Bitcoin doubled tomorrow, would you feel good about how it's secured right now? Most people haven't really pressure tested that, and I get it. Some people are comfortable taking full control of their own keys, but others want security without having to manage it all themselves. That's why I partnered with OnRamp, multi-institution custody where your keys are held across independent institutions in multiple jurisdictions. No single company can access, move, or lose your Bitcoin. Lloyd's of London insured, inheritance planning built in, and a team that walks you through the entire setup. They serve clients globally, whether you're in the US, Europe, or anywhere else. Book a free consultation at onrampbitcoin.com/Bram to learn more. That's onrampbitcoin.com/Bram. Most people stop too early with Bitcoin. They buy it, maybe move it to a wallet and think they are done. But they're not. The real questions are how you're securing it, how private your setup is, and whether you're verifying your own transactions or trusting someone else. And what happens to your Bitcoin when something happens to you? This is the layer that most people ignore, and it's the most important one. That's why I've been working with the Bitcoin Way. They help you set up self-custody properly, including privacy, cybersecurity, inheritance, and even running your own node. And they do it without ever touching your Bitcoin. They're not a custodian. They're your support team. If you're serious about this like I am, go to thebitcoinway.com/Bram, that's BRAM, to book a free call. They'll walk you through your setup, personalize everything to you, and help you get a much stronger position very quickly, whether you're a beginner or more advanced. That's thebitcoinway.com/Bram. But the Buddhist lens and the Taoist lens, as precise as they are, they only describe part of what is actually happening. And there's a deeper layer. The Hermetic tradition, the Kybalion, this mysterious text rooted in the teachings of Hermes Trismegistus, describes what it calls the principle of rhythm. Everything flows, everything has its tides, all things rise and fall. The measure of the swing to the right is the measure of the swing to the left. That's the boom and bust cycle, described with precision millennia before anyone coined the term business cycle. Every artificial boom plants the seeds of the next bust. Every swing in one direction stores energy for an equal swing back. And the Kybalion says the masses are swung backward and forward like a pendulum. But those who understand the principle learn to rise above the swing, to basically neutralize it, to become movers instead of being moved. And then it describes the principle of cause and effect. And this is the line that stopped me cold. The masses of people are carried along, obedient to environment, the wills and desires of others stronger than themselves, moving them about like pawns on the chessboard of life. Pawns on a chessboard moved by wills stronger than their own. If that's not a description of how monetary policy works in this day and age on all our populations, I don't know what is. The Federal Reserve raises rates and millions could lose their home. They print more money and wealth transfers upward. They tighten and businesses close. The masses don't choose, the masses get moved. Now hold that, because there's one more tradition that ties everything together, and it's the one that, when I encountered it, made the entire picture crystal clear. The ancient Gnostics had this concept of the demiurge, a powerful figure who created the material world and convinced everyone it was all there was. His power depended on keeping people ignorant, focused entirely on material survival, unable to recognize their own inner divinity. And the demiurge had enforcers called archons. And the crazy thing is that archon literally translates from Greek as ruler or authority. That's not a coincidence. The Gnostics deliberately used a political term to describe spiritual oppression. These archons maintained control through what the texts describe as forgetfulness, distraction, and fate. They kept people in what's called a condition of sleep or drunkenness, souls trapped in cycles of material existence, the wheel of reincarnation, and never able to escape because they never woke up to what was really happening. Now, I'm not asking you to take any of this literally, but as a philosophical lens, as a metaphor, I think it's damningly precise. A monetary system that forces you to trade irreplaceable life energy for tokens someone else dilutes at will. That keeps you focused on material survival through engineered scarcity. That uses forgetfulness. I mean, most people have zero idea about how money is created. And also distraction, right? Consumerism as a coping mechanism for the anxiety the system itself creates to prevent you from asking deeper questions. And that traps you in cycles. Debt cycles, boom and bust cycles, the paycheck to paycheck loop. And that mirrors the Gnostic wheel of reincarnation very precisely. And what was the Gnostic answer to all of this? Gnosis, a word that literally means direct knowledge. Not belief, not faith in authority, personal, verified understanding of reality. You didn't need a priest or an institution to mediate your relationship with the absolute truth. You needed to see it directly for yourself. And right there, that's where Bitcoin enters the picture. For my European friends that want to buy Bitcoin with ease, check out Relay. I've been a long-time fan and happy to partner up with what I think is the best Bitcoin-only platform for Europeans. They offer a super simple, beginner-friendly app with no distractions and no shitcoins. You can do a quick one-time smash buy or set up automatic purchases when you're stacking regularly. And here's the thing that matters most. Relay is 100% self-custody. Every set you hold is yours. Your keys, your coins. If you want to get started, download the app via my link below or in the description and use code BRAM, that's BRAM, at checkout to get 10% off your fees. Every Bitcoiner hits this moment. You need cash. Maybe a house deposit, an emergency, or a tax bill, and you're staring at your stack thinking, do I really want to sell this? Here's the thing, you don't have to. You can borrow against your Bitcoin instead, so there's also no taxable event and your stack can keep on stacking. This is where Firefish comes in, a peer-to-peer marketplace for Bitcoin-backed loans. And Firefish isn't a lender. They built the protocol that makes this all possible, which is exactly why they never, ever have to touch your Bitcoin. During your loan, your Bitcoin sits in an on-chain multisig secured by open source code. You can easily create a loan request with your desired amount, duration, and interest rate and share it on their marketplace at firefish.io. When you get matched and decide to accept a loan offer, you can use code BRAM to get 30% off your first loan's fees. That's firefish.io and code BRAM. Bitcoin's core ethos is don't trust, verify. That's Gnosis applied to money. You don't need to believe the Fed. You don't need to trust your bank. You can run a full node and independently verify every single transaction ever made on the Bitcoin network. The Bitcoin time chain is a transparent, mathematically secured record of reality that anyone can audit. No priests, no intermediaries, no authorities standing between you and the truth about your money. I call this monetary gnosis, direct knowledge of your own financial reality verified by you, not granted by an institution. When you store your life energy in Bitcoin, you're storing it in a container that no one can dilute. 21 million coins forever, and that cap is enforced by mathematics and distributed consensus, not by institutions with agendas and people you will never see the face of. And the rules of Bitcoin are extremely hard to change. This was proven in 2017 when 95% of miners signaled for a protocol change and the nodes run by ordinary people all over the world said no. And the rules held. And Bitcoin's fixed protocol, the predictable halving every 4 years, the absence of any committee adjusting supply, it's wu-wei encoded in software. A monetary system that follows natural rhythms instead of fighting them. No intervention, no tampering, no meetings to decide what money should cost today. There's this Taoist concept called pu, the uncarved block, representing things in their natural uncorrupted state. Fiat money is the carved block shaped entirely by human artifice, limited by the forms imposed on it. Bitcoin is way closer to pu. It's unchangeable, unfakeable, and uncarved. And then there's the option to keep Bitcoin in self-custody. 12 words in your memory, that's your private key. No government can seize it, no bank can freeze it, no court can confiscate it. Your value, the crystallized product of your finite time on this earth, truly belongs to you. The Gnostic tradition taught that every human carries a divine spark, an inner sovereignty that no external authority can grant or revoke. Bitcoin's private key is a material echo of that idea. Sovereignty made tangible. For the first time in monetary history, you can hold your own value completely without anyone's permission. The bandwidth trap breaks, the extraction loop ends, and the monkey stops swinging because the branch stops dissolving. So let me bring this all together because the synthesis is the most important part. Alan Watts said the ego and money are both concepts, symbols, useful abstractions that become prisons when you forget their abstractions. The Fiat system captures your consciousness in exactly this prison. The Buddhist would say fiat money amplifies Tana, structurally mandating the craving that causes suffering. The Taoist would say central banking violates Wu Wei, forcing intervention where natural order would serve better. And the Hermetic tradition would say the masses are moved like pawns because they don't understand the causes moving them. The Gnostic would say the archons maintain control through forgetfulness and distraction. All of them are pointing at the same thing from different angles, and all of them are pointing toward the same solution. Wake up. See directly. Verify for yourself. Stop trusting the authorities who benefit from you being asleep. Buckminster Fuller said you never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. Bitcoin is that model, and it's not just about saving your money. It's about giving you back your time, your attention, and your cognitive bandwidth, your ability to think beyond plain survival, your sovereignty over the value of your own life. That is not a financial revolution. That's a revolution of consciousness. It starts with 12 words that nobody else controls. Thanks for listening to this episode of Bitcoin for Millennials. If this one hit different, if it made you see money in a way you hadn't before, share it with someone who needs to hear it. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, you can click here to find more just like it, and click here to find all Bitcoin for Millennials podcast episodes. Also, if you want to help me shine a light on the message of Bitcoin, please like this video and subscribe to stay connected. I hope to see you for our next episode. Bye.